told you that the moment you try to convince someone to buy something, you actually make it less likely that they will. That sounds completely backwards, right? But stick with me for the next few minutes because understanding this one idea completely changed how I approach sales, how I approach persuasion, and honestly, how I approach most conversations where something important is on the line. And by the end of this video, you are going to walk away with a framework that lets you sell effectively without ever feeling like you are manipulating someone or being that pushy salesperson that everyone hates. So let me start with a question. Think about the last time someone tried really hard to sell you something. Maybe it was a car dealership. Maybe it was someone at your door. Maybe it was a friend pitching you on a business opportunity. Do you remember how that felt? There was probably this tension in your body, this instinct to back away, to say no, to find an exit. That feeling has a name in psychology. It's called reactance, and it is one of the most powerful forces working against traditional sales tactics. Reactance is basically your brain saying, someone is trying to control my choices and I do not like that. The moment a person feels pushed toward a decision, something in them automatically pushes back in the opposite direction. It is not even a conscious choice. It is almost a reflex. And here is the uncomfortable truth for anyone in sales or business. Most traditional sales training actually triggers this response constantly. The pressure tactics, the manufactured urgency, the relentless follow-ups, all of it makes reactance worse. So here is the core insight that everything else in this video builds on. The best salespeople in the world are not better at convincing people. They are better at creating conditions where people convince themselves. Say that to yourself again. They are better at creating conditions where people convince themselves. The goal is not to push someone toward a yes. The goal is to remove the obstacles standing between them and a decision they already want to make. Now let us get practical because this is where it gets really interesting. The first thing you need to understand is the difference between selling and helping. And I know that sounds like something you would see on a motivational poster, but bear with me because there is actual psychology behind this. When you are in a conversation and your internal focus is on making the sale, the other person can feel that. Not always consciously, but they sense the agenda. Their guard goes up. And when your genuine focus is on understanding their situation and figuring out whether what you offer actually solves their problem, the entire energy of the conversation shifts. People open up. They share more. They start trusting you. And trust, not pressure, is what actually closes the deal. This brings us to what might be the most underrated skill in sales. It is listening. Not the kind of listening where you are nodding while you wait for your turn to talk, but real listening. The kind where you are genuinely trying to understand what someone is struggling with, what they have already tried, and what they are afraid of, and what they actually want. When people feel truly heard, something remarkable happens. They become far more receptive to whatever comes next. There is a psychological principle at work here called the principle of reciprocity, but it goes deeper than just the social exchange. When you invest genuine attention in someone, they feel understood, and feeling understood creates trust in a way that almost nothing else can. Here is a technique that elite salespeople use that most people never learn. It is called the pain before solution structure. The instinct for most people in sales is to jump straight to talking about their product or service. Look at all these great features. Here is what we offer. Here is the price. But the human brain does not work like that. People do not care about solutions when they do not yet feel that their problem has been fully acknowledged. So the counterintuitive move is to spend more time on the problem before you ever mention a solution. Ask questions that help the person articulate what they are going through. Let them feel that weight, not in a manipulative way, but in an honest way. Because if you are going to help them, you both need to be clear on exactly what the problem is. When someone has fully articulated their own problem in their own words, and they feel that you genuinely understand it, that is the moment your solution becomes genuinely interesting to them. You are not imposing the solution. You are revealing it at exactly the moment they are ready to hear it. Now let us talk about objections, because this is where a lot of people fall apart. The traditional sales training approach to objections is to overcome them. Counter every objection with a prepared rebuttal. And this approach, while it can work on a purely technical level, often makes the other person feel like they are being argued with, or like their concerns don't matter, and like you just want to win. Nobody wants to buy from someone who makes them feel that way. A much more effective approach is what I call objection curiosity. Instead of countering an objection, get curious about it. If someone says, "I'm not sure I have the budget for this," instead of immediately pivoting to a payment plan or justifying the price, try something like, "Well, that makes sense. Can you help me understand what the budget situation looks like?" You're not being manipulative. You are genuinely trying to understand whether there is a real constraint or whether the budget concern is a proxy for a different fear entirely. And often it is. Budget objections frequently mask concerns about value, about risk, and about whether this thing will actually work. When you get curious instead of defensive, you often surface the real issue, and then you can actually address it. Let me bring in another concept that is foundational to ethical sales psychology. It is called self-determination theory. At a high level, this theory suggests that people are most motivated and feel best about their choices when they feel three things: autonomy, meaning that they made the choice freely; competence, meaning that they feel capable of making a good decision; and connection, which means they feel genuinely understood by the person they are dealing with. Now notice something. These three things are completely compatible with a sales context. In fact, a sales conversation that gives someone autonomy, helps them to feel confident, and makes them feel connected is not just more ethical, it is also dramatically more effective. Giving someone autonomy in a sales conversation means making it genuinely okay for them to say no. I know that sounds terrifying, but think about what happens when someone knows that they can say no without drama or pressure. Their guard drops completely. And when their guard drops, they actually engage with the real question of whether this is right for them, rather than spending the whole conversation figuring out how to escape. There is another psychological lever here that is absolutely critical, and that is social proof. And I want to address this carefully because social proof is one of the most misused tools in the sales world. Fake reviews, manufactured testimonials, or inflated numbers. All of this backfires because people are extremely good at detecting inauthenticity. Real social proof, meaning genuine stories from real customers who experienced real results, is extraordinarily powerful. Not because it manipulates people, but because it helps them imagine their own future state. When someone can see themselves in the story of someone who faced a similar problem and found a solution, the decision becomes almost natural. Let me now pull this all together into a simple framework that you can start using today. Step 1, start with curiosity, not a pitch. Ask real questions. Listen more than you talk. Understand the actual situation before you say anything about what you offer. Step 2, validate the problem before presenting the solution. Spend time ensuring that the person feels genuinely heard and understood. Do not rush to the answer. Step 3, present your solution as a possibility, not a pressure. Share what you offer in the context of whether it might address what they described. Let them evaluate it. Give them room. Step 4, welcome objections as information. Get curious about concerns instead of countering them. The objections will tell you exactly what they need to feel confident. Step 5, give them the freedom to decide. Make it clear and genuine that the right answer might be no, and that's okay. This is the move that paradoxically makes yes far more likely. Here is the bottom line. Ethical sales psychology is not a compromise between being effective and being decent. It is actually the recognition that being genuinely decent is what makes you most effective. Pressure tactics and manipulation might generate short-term wins, but they destroy trust. They generate refunds, and they create bad word of mouth, and they make you feel terrible about your own work. The salespeople and business owners who build something lasting are the ones who help people make genuinely good decisions, even when that sometimes means acknowledging what they offer is not the right fit. That level of integrity is not weakness. It is the most powerful competitive advantage that you can have. If this way of thinking about sales resonates with you, be sure and subscribe, because we go deep on ethical influence and sales psychology every single week. And if you want to go deeper into it today, be sure and check the description below, where there will be some free trainings available for you. And leave a comment below telling me which part of this framework you are going to try first. I do my best to read every single one, and I look forward to seeing you in that next video.